at the end of 2 days, listening to so much information, so much knowledge, such truth, great analysis, new perceptions which I haven't heard. It takes a little bit of time to bring all this together in my mind. So I had intended actually to talk about the testimonies I had heard. I honestly need more time to think about it. So I'm going to talk about some of my concerns, the permission of the organizers. Arundhati spoke about the failure of the kinds of tools we've used so far to fight. But I think the enemy has changed. The tools of the enemy has changed. The methods they use have changed. The insidiousness of their attacks have changed. The gullibility of all of ourselves, and I think we've all been gullible at various points. And they have understood exactly where we are gullible. They've used different strategies for different nations. They've studied us for years. They found out what makes us tick and what makes us not tick. See, sometimes I'm frightened when I think of the hard work that has gone in to paralyze us in many ways. But I think there is something very buoyant about the Indians. I still feel that. In the last 2 days, I've been amazed at each one of the speakers. So good. Whether it's a middle-class speaker speaking from the base of Aristotelian logic and understanding things far beyond the confines of the Indian tradition, or whether it's a tsunami-affected person who's been talking about their own condition as they have been this afternoon. I'm amazed at the level and the depth of our thought. And I think there lies, for us, a tremendous opportunity. The opportunity is to listen to people, and as we've listened to each other, to go and listen to the people of India. And I think all of us need to collectively do huge yatras. And now feel once again that I need to know the pulse of India. Perhaps we need to know the pulse of India. To take this political battle again, the answers will not come from us. The answers will come from people who don't belong to our class, who are not fully represented in this meeting. While we can articulate the problems very well, I think the answers will not come from us anymore. Because I think in very many cases I feel we are bankrupt and pauperized in our minds. I think the answers will come from a completely different group, which as individuals and as groups and as part of movements we've come, we recognize, but it has not become a large political mass which can use its bargaining power in India today to get things done. Now that has been a huge challenge for us through the years. We've tried to mobilize on platforms, we've tried to mobilize on political agendas, we have tried to mobilize as workers' groups, we have tried to mobilize, but I still think that we should get together. And I think there is no other way, because what is being used against us, the judiciary is bought up, the government officers have been bought up, the police has a new act where it can arrest indiscriminately. You have all regulatory mechanisms unaccountable. You have new laws which are being made. If you talk about the rule of law, it is the rule of law. SEZ is the rule of law because it is a law. So we now have to sharpen our tools and think of many different ways of doing it. And I'm sure that we'll find a way. We've always found a way and we will find a way. But the thing is, our strategies will have to change. One very important thing, and I'm going to make a big, broad generalization, is to corner decision making. I think what we have done by disowning processes of decision making, whether it is political decision making by not being present in all these institutions where decisions are taken because we are not members of political parties and we have not gone into electoral politics for very definite reasons. We've lost tremendous ground there. We've also lost ground because we are not part of governance in any way. And we always look at governance as something terrible, something contaminated, something filthy, something we should stay away from. Then I'm afraid controls are not possible. I think we'll have to engage partially with them. We don't have to fully agree with any government. We don't have to fully agree with any political party. But we'll have to see them as instruments through which demanding accountability from them, responsible action from them, maybe get them to act, maybe change, definitely change. Something is possible. And I think decision-making processes and control over decision-making processes is very important. The other thing that I think is important, which we have, again, as a group, I'm not talking of individuals might have, but as a group of people, not controlled the accountability of institutions of democracy. Institutions of democracy. I think if we believe in democracy, we must call the bluff of the people who are now marginalizing us totally because they talk about democracy. Let's call their bluff. They talk about democracy wherever they go. Let's call the bluff of democracy. Let's see how these democratic institutions can be made to answer people. What we need to do to make them answer us and corner it. There have been immense debates within the NAPM, outside the NAPM in Rajasthan about whether we can form groups of people who will fight political battles through political parties, whether it's possible or not. And I've heard many people say, wherever we go, they say, "Arey bhai, ye to sab theek hai. Ab rajniti mein nahi ghusoge to kya hone wala hai?" So let's talk about electoral politics somewhere. We'll talk about the power of electoral politics to take decisions, apart from the corruption and the unaccountability of all such institutions. So I think somewhere that has to be addressed and addressed collectively. The third thing I feel, which we have talked about, is wherever we work, however we work, whatever issue we take up, we must talk about disclosure of information, of decision making, of facts, of technological arguments, of financial arguments, of legal arguments. We want to know. Please let it come into the public domain and we will judge whether it is actually the correct decision or not. There will always be somebody who will disagree. But today, we are really building up an entire set of arguments on lies and deceit. And I don't think that is acceptable and is certainly not good for the future of this country. And I think there we can use whatever tools we do, but we have to take it into the public domain and fight. And the fight becomes stronger. We find new allies when we take it into the public domain and start fights there, as we have many, many instances in this meeting which have come through. The last thing I would request the organizers of this tribunal to do is to really bring together all that we have said, and I don't know how much work there's going to be for all of you, and to make sense out of all that has been said, to bring things together, to bring together political arguments that might come out of all our various statements, economic arguments that might have come out of all of our statements, which can be something of a base from which we can start even to disagree with. It doesn't matter. We all may not agree to what's been said, but in that final collation we can begin even discussions, debates, arguments of what we need to do. I really don't think I have any answers. I've come groping like all of you. And as an activist, I've come here looking for some kind of clarity for limited action. It's easy if we are not activists to not look for clarity. But as activists, we need clarity. Because limited clarity, at least I must know what I can do tomorrow. I may not know what I will do 10 years later. I may not even know whether it will deliver the results I hope to do. But if I have to file a PIL tomorrow, I must know that I have to file a PIL tomorrow. If I have to fight a battle, I must know how I'm going to fight that battle. And I want to know a little bit more than that. If I have to win battles, economic battles, the kind that the World Bank has perpetuated in my country, in our countries, and the battles that they are fighting. I wish all of us luck.